Yeah.
All right, people. We're gonna get this party started. So,
All right.
I'm gonna bar.
All right. Welcome everybody that came out here, especially y'all that flew and drove. Really appreciate y'all coming out here to this West Coast blowout. We doing this in honor of Frank Sanders and John Weber. I just want to briefly go over the history of this LA grad chapter. Probably egotistically, but it started when I came out here in 2000. It started when I came out here in 2000, and I just graduated from Grambling State Tiger 5, and I asked the president at the time to give me a list of every single brother that lived on the West Coast, whoever had an address on the West Coast or anything. I called everybody on that list that I got, and only like 3 other cats were interested and were showing up to meetings on a regular basis. That was Tito, that was Frank Sanders, and that was John Weber, Skeeter. Now, in that time span, that was back in 2000, in that time span, Tito went to Texas and we lost Frank and Skeeter at extremely young ages, which you're going to put up here on the screen. Frank Sanders had leukemia, and it appears, as far as we can tell, only his family knew. We didn't know. It caught us all completely by surprise. He had leukemia, and he died suddenly right after, what was it, the 2003 Miami conclave, about 3 months later. So just to put a little time frame on that. And then Skeeter died at the age of 47. He had a heart attack. He was jogging, and he was just like around the corner from his house. He had a nice house out in the valley. We had many meetings out there and everything. He was watching many fights out there at his house. And he died at the age of 47. As you can tell, they just gone way too soon. All right, so what we're gonna do is tonight, the way this is gonna go is everyone's gonna get a chance to speak. If there's anything that you want to say, you will have a chance to speak. I'm gonna speak first of all on my man Skeeter, and I'm gonna let other brothers from Los Angeles graduate chapter speak on him, and then we're gonna speak on Frank Sanders next, and we're actually gonna show a video that's Frank Sanders directed, because he worked in the movie business, and anybody who knew him, any LBs, anybody who knew him, y'all all welcome to come up here and speak your piece. And I'm gonna ask you, man, tell us some stories, man, especially about Frank, because Frank was a funny dude. Frank was hilarious, man. It was not. I remember one time Frank was talking about the time he saw Denzel Washington. And he said he was sitting there having lunch, and he was like, "Who's this brother with this pimp ass wife?" And he didn't realize it was Denzel at first. And I remember he was telling us about it, man. This was the funniest dude to have in the room, especially if you got cats online. You got cats up there. You want somebody to crack jokes, man. Frank was, Frank was he was the man as far as that was concerned. So, but first of all, let me speak on John Weber. Skeeter was from the East Coast. He was from New York. He had this real thick East Coast kind of like, I'm from Cali, but I call it that Brooklyn type of accent, with the raspy voice, and he'd be the type of cat to tell you like all kinds of stories about New York back in the days, and snort cocaine in the club, and what pleasure was like back in the days. And he was the only way to describe him, he was just like the coolest dude ever. Just to hear him talk, with that raspy voice and that thick East Coast accent, everything he said was just kind of cool. He just had this kind of presence, you know what I'm saying, where you just wanted to hear what he had to say, you know what I'm saying? You just wanted to hear his opinion. And it wasn't like always like funny, but he just had that personality that was just really, really cool. And we got 3 more chairs coming, so anybody that's standing.
You're more outside.
No, you're good.
That's
no
fine.
more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And like I said, when I came out here and started the chapter, he was basically the first leader of this Los Angeles graduate chapter. He was the oldest. He was the elder statesman, and you know, I think he pledged the first line, which was he was the DP of the first line, which was Rob's line right here, which was 01. 01. And man, I'm just gonna say he was like the leader of our chapter. He was the glue, and you know, he went to Tuskegee, and there's not many people here that knew him, but this is him right here on the end. This is what he looked like back in his younger days at Tuskegee. Sorry, that caused a little ripple in this thing right here. Yeah, man. Skeeter was my man. I mean, he came to my wedding, my short-lived marriage, if any of y'all remember that. But this is also him way back in the background. And we got these pictures from his wife. And if any of you were looking at the GoFundMe page, which was the page that we set up, you know, for this scholarship in the name of Frank Sanders and John Weber. The whole purpose of this scholarship was to, you know, basically, to be honest with you, to make sure that they were never forgotten. You know what I'm saying? Make sure that their flame never blew out. You know, and it's been several years. It's been, what, 11 years? As a matter of fact, almost 11 years to yesterday that Skeeter passed, and we're going to honor him, and we're going to keep the scholarship going. Now, a lot of y'all gave money to the scholarship. We're going to raise just about $1,500. I think the last time we looked, we were like 45 short. We're going to give out that $1,000 scholarship, but that extra $500 is going to the next year's scholarship, because we're going to keep this mentoring program going, because we had a very comprehensive mentoring program that I'm very proud of. And by the way, Rob put the mentoring program together, and we just executed his vision based off the book that he wrote. If y'all don't really realize the scholar that we have in here, Dr. Robert Brown. I do want to read something to you, because I've been keeping in correspondence with his widow. And if you have been paying attention to the GoFundMe page, we were coming up a little bit short. And Danielle, Skeeter's wife, she gave that's where that extra $500 that was anonymous came from. And because she saw that we were coming up a little bit short on it. And she said this to me in a text message. She said, I tried doing the scholarship when John passed, but was told Groove didn't do scholarships. So the fact that you guys made it come true fills my heart. I miss my husband each and every day I live with. I live without him. So thank you. This is making me sad just thinking about it, man. This is my man. She also said, God always has a ram in the bush just for us. Instead of looking at the situation and the complications, if we just stop, be still, look and listen, we will see that things that God has prepared just for us. So often we see the obvious and not look at the things we don't see, which is really our faith, the evidence of things not seen. For by faith we receive a good testimony and the substance of the things we hope for, as we walk by faith and praise God in all things, having the confidence that regardless of the situation, it works for our good and glorifies God. Then victory will be ours, and we will sing. What a mighty God we serve. How faithful is our God. Have a blessed day. That was one of the things that she told me in the text when I called her to thank her for that $1,000 donation that she made in order to make this GoFundMe happen. This, of course, right here is my man John Weber, and if you check out, he has some sick lines right here, man. I don't know if y'all, I don't know if I've ever seen any look that sick, and that's a very old picture with the blown out afro back in his younger days. When I saw him, he had a lot of gray. When I met him, he had gray all up in his hair. So this was a pretty long picture. I mean, old picture, but this was his wife. This was the one who, I asked her to send me this picture today. So, you know, because I wanted to read what she said. That's Danielle, that's his widow. He leaves her behind, and he also leaves behind his 2 children. This is his son, John Jr., who was like a teenager at the time. And, you know, I remember, you know, Skeeter talking about, you know, what he was doing to put his kids through private school. Like, they was just in high school, but he was paying like $500 a month for them to go to like a real good school. I remember how much he cared about his kids, and he was, you know, he was very attentive to his son and trying to be a good dad. And now his son, and I can't believe how time flies. It's just really, it's been 11 years, and his son is a grown man now. Look at him, he's got his wife, and this is John Weber III right here, the little baby. So he's survived by his son and also his daughter, who was just about probably this big last time we saw her, and now she's obviously grown up to a beautiful woman. So he's survived by his children, and like I said, through Groove and through the scholarship, his name is gonna live on, because we're not gonna let it die out. That's all I wanted to say about Skeeter. And who else? Anyone else that knew him is obvious. I mean, obviously can step up and speak anything. Alex, anything you want to tell about being pledged under him or anything? Or?
Nah.
I want to know about being pledged under Skeeter.
Well, you know what I mean?
I mean, most of my experiences with being pledged, the crazy stories really come from this one. So,
From who, me?
No. You know,
this guy.
let me speak about it.
Go ahead. What you got to say?
As some of y'all know, I didn't have the experience that y'all did. You know, growing up in California, there were no real black organizations. Nobody knew about any of them, really. And I didn't become a groom until I was 28. I already had 2 degrees before I even thought about it. My wife said, you gotta go do something, you gotta get out of the house. And so I'm on the internet trying to, you know, I'm just searching for stuff, and came across the Groove 5 Groove, sent the email to the national organization, and didn't hear from them. Come to find out, behind the scenes, they had contacted these brothers, Skeeter and Frank and Tierre, and they said, yeah, why don't you come over to the house, we're gonna meet each other and see what happens. Turns out Frank lived literally 6 minutes from my house. I had no idea. I would drive by his place every time I go to work, and that's how close we live. We live in the same city in North Hollywood. And so when I pledged, John Weber was my DP, and his brother was smooth. I mean, 1977 is when he became a Groove, and this is my experience, you know. All these other cats, Frank, Tierre, Tito, you know, they were younger, and they were like, we can't wait to get this line, man. We need to pledge it hard. And Skeeter would just sit back in the cut, and he was, you know, just let him do. He sees something that ain't right, he would step in, he would say this, and everybody would just stop.
That's true.
and because that's the DP, and then he would straighten it out, and then we keep going. And he would get back, and then everybody was like, he would just do his thing. That's the kind of dude he was, you know what I mean? I remember at one point I was like, you know what, I ain't doing this pledging shit anymore. I'm not doing it. I'm older than everybody. Well, you and Tito are younger than me, and they give me the hardest time. I don't have to do this. Skeeter called me up. He says, you know what? You can quit if you want, but you don't know what's on the other side. You already know what quitting feels like, right? Let's try not quitting. See what that feels like. You don't know what's on the other side. I didn't realize that I was having this conversation with him 7 days before I was supposed to go over, but I was like, I can't do this, man. They talking about having me on all summer, man. This ain't, nah. and he just said, you don't know what's on the other side. That's all he kept saying. You don't know what's on the other side. I remember, because I was already married. I didn't have any kids at that time, but I was asking Skeeter, after I'd gone over, I had this conversation with him. I said, how do you know when it's time to be a father? Because I got this new wife, and we don't have kids yet, but I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? And he says, you know, when you get older and you become a man, you have all these responsibilities, and you can live your whole life without being a father if you want to, but something happens when you have to take care of another life. You and your wife can split up, you can see each other and not see each other, but once you become a father, you turn into this other type of man. And I'm like, but I don't know if I want to do this. He said, well, you don't have to. But you know, it's just like pleasure. You don't know what's on the other side. And you can not do it, but just know that once you do it, you turn into this other person. You know what I'm saying? And that's who he was. He majored in psychology when he was in Tuskegee.
And now you're writing books on fatherhood.
And now I'm writing books on manhood, and yeah. So I owe a lot to John Skeeter Weber. He did a lot for what's happening right here in LA. So, all right, I'm gonna stop talking. Let somebody else say something.
No? All right. Okay, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna advance in the slide. This is a portion where we're gonna talk about Frank.